Welcome into the Oklahoman's video studio. I'm Dave Morris. Happy to be joined by this lady right here. It's Shauna Ling. She's the executive director and the founder, I believe, of Kids Alive OKC. Shauna, thank you for your time this morning. Very nice to meet you.
Thank you, Dave. Nice to be here.
Happy holidays.
Oh, yes. Happy holidays.
Shauna was just telling me beforehand that she's in the process of moving, which is always a process. Packing up the house, finding a new place, paint.
It is, but I'm enjoying all the decorations around me right here in the Oklahoma.
It's a little bit festive here. I like this. We got the tree right out there, and there's holiday merriment outside and streetcars developing here in downtown Oklahoma City, which is your home.
Yes, it is. I live in Heritage Hills and love this area. I'm fascinated by it and love the vibe, so yes.
Okay, so you're an Oklahoman.
Correct.
You are the executive director and founder, as I mentioned, of Kids Alive OKC, which let me just throw their website out there so you can find some more information, kidsaliveokc.org, and that's what we'll be talking about. What got you started? Why did you found this?
Well, I'd been involved in theater for 20 years, at the time about 16, and I'd always worked with a combination of youth and adult theater, and I left my position as education director at Petite Theater, which was a thriving community theater, and I hadn't intended to continue directing, and had some parents come to me and say, hey, what would it take to keep you going with this? So I said, well, I don't have a space and I don't have any money, but if that happens, we can go forward. So it did. Within a week's time, we had a donor come forward for our first production, and we had about 35 kids our very first summer, which was 2015.
Wow, the demand really was there.
It was there, and Jewel Box Theater picked us up. We used them as our performing arts space, and we were very, very fortunate. A lot of people seemed to want what we had to offer, so we've decided to continue as long as there was a need.
What's been the feedback?
Lovely. We have our parents and our families enjoy what we do, and then the people who come to our performances as well are always leave inspired. We have kind of a unique combination of families that come into our performances. We have a mix of experienced young children who have been performing for a long time, and we have a number of kids who've never been in the performing arts. And then about a year into the program, we added something called Kaleidoscope, where we offered opportunities for children with special needs to perform. And the difference is, and I spent some time trying to decide what that difference really is. There are many, many worthy opportunities for kids with special needs out there. But we believe that everybody has something important to bring to the table, and that while it might be different, it's equally important. So we pair those kids with other children who know the ropes for performing, and they work together to create one character. Which is very unique. It provides opportunities for the kids who've been doing this for a while, and provides a whole new focus for the children with special needs. So while we may have one performer who's maybe slightly less verbal than you or I, we pair them with someone who has that capability, and together they can fill in all the gaps on that role. So
it's an interesting perspective, and kaleidoscope is an appropriate word for this. I mentioned your website, kidsaliveokc.org, and your latest blog post, which you posted, I believe, just a couple weeks ago. You bring up a good point, and the perspective is this: we spend a lot of time among our peers, kind of people like ourselves, but we really grow when you pair yourself or you're among other people with different perspectives, talents, abilities. So I'll let you explain that thought a little more.
Right, yes, and that has expanded too, because when I first started working with theater, it was with a community theater situation where you have children of all ages, you have adults, you have people who consider themselves on a professional level of performance but didn't take that track, and you have people who've never done anything like this or did it in high school or junior high. So you have this whole mix of ages and abilities, and they strengthen each other. So when I moved then to working with youth, I started with, well, let's add different ages, because a 17-year-old's perspective and a 3-year-old's are totally different, and they're going to bring something to the table that will balance each other. Whereas school situation, we tend to like line us up with our age group. You're only with 3 or 4-year-olds, or you're only with 15-year-olds, so you don't get the benefit of what the others can add. So I started with little kids, and I would put 3-year-olds on the floor with the kids who had been performing forever, and we didn't stand our 3-year-olds off by themselves on a box. They were given responsibilities.
How did that organized chaos work
out? Yeah, they brought it up to the table because they didn't know anything different. They had this role model in front of them, and they just did what everybody else did. And so people would ask what the magic wand was, and I said I just asked them to do it.
It was just that simple.
It was that simple. So then when we moved into children with special needs, I don't have a background in working with children in that capacity. I have a capacity in working with multiple groups of people with different abilities. And so we don't view them any differently than the other children in our program. We view them as people who are bringing something unique to the table. My job is to find out what that is, how to get them over their hang-ups, and then let them present what they've got to share. And they always have some wonderful things to share. And that's one of the most dynamic elements of the program. It's the kids who have been performers for a long time, and even the adults who are watching this realize finally that, wow, they have something important to contribute to our society, and we just didn't know it because we never looked.
It's that obvious and that simple at the same time. We're chatting with Shauna Link. She's the executive director and the founder of Kids Alive OKC. I believe you're in a bit of a break now, as we mentioned off the top here. We're in the holidays, and so calendar-wise, I believe you're in a bit of a break. But kind of break it down for us, the different seasons and schedules that Kids Alive has.
Yeah, we basically operate with 3 seasons, fall, spring, and summer. We're kind of centered around the school year. And in the fall, we are working towards something that we started with from our very beginning, which is attending the Junior Theater Festival, which is the world's biggest and best theater for music theater for young people. And it began in Sacramento. It quickly swelled within a 10-year period to over 5,000 people participating. We first went, this will be our 4th year to attend the Junior Theater Festival. So it became kind of a cornerstone of our production. And there they take a young group of performers. They have to do a 15-minute cut from a junior theater production, a musical, and it has to tell a complete story. And they have to tell that story without props, without set, without costumes.
Here's a stage.
Yes,
go.
Which and it's not even a stage. They're in a banquet or a ballroom.
Okay, yeah, here's a room.
So, right.
Here's an area.
And so it forces the children into a situation to rely on their acting skills, and they exponentially grow them when they don't have anything else to fall back on. So it's fascinating because when we think of a festival, they are adjudicated, their performance is adjudicated, so they get feedback from 3 professionals, Broadway professionals, in acting, dance, and singing. But then it's not an element of competition. So while in Atlanta, for example, there may be over 100 groups that attend, everyone's there to support each other and learn. So they watch the other groups perform. Although there are awards, there's recognition. There's not a 1st, 2nd, 3rd place. And the adjudication is the most looked forward to portion of their performance, because they get that feedback on where they can go from there and what they have done well at. So we have shifted with our group. They opened a new theater, or a new festival in Sacramento 2 years ago, and it's smaller. There are between 15 to 200 to 2,000 people. So we're looking at, 40 groups instead of over 100. But they still come from all over the world. Last year, we had a group from China or Korea, and one of the Asian countries, and So it's not just here within the States that this is interesting to. But in Sacramento, it's a smaller group, so we feel we get more feedback, the kids get more hands-on experience. It's a 3-day festival. They get to meet with Broadway professionals and have workshops and choreography and such in addition to performing this. So in the fall, wrapping up, in the fall, we work towards practicing or rehearsing for that. And then in the spring, we do a big kaleidoscope production, which is what we're working on right now. We have auditions this coming weekend for Mary Poppins. We perform at Special Care, and that is where we pair our children with special needs, with the more experienced young performers. So there it is, Mary Poppins.
How's that going so far? What do you envision for Mary Poppins?
Oh, well, a lot of magic. I've kind of been worried a bit about it. I've directed some numbers from that show in review situations, and there's a lot of magic that goes on, so we're working on that. But we'll have a full cast of over 60 kids in that performance. Nice. We'll break that into 3 components. So we'll have our kaleidoscope, where those are partnered performers, and that's the one that's to see, because they are all in the named roles. The children with special needs take on Bird and Mary and Jane and Michael and all of that you expect to see. And then we'll have 2 other casts of typically developing children that perform in their own productions, and they serve as ensemble for each other. So they're all learning multiple tracks. And yeah, we probably won't fly Mary across the stage, but we'll find some creative way to get her up in the air.
That's the beauty of theater, right?
That's the beauty of theater. And the kids are so innovative, they will help us figure that out, so yes.
Well, let's back up real fast. What got you into theater to begin with? You said you had like 2 decades of experience here.
Yeah, well, I performed as a child. I was always involved in the performing arts in some capacity or other. I have a degree in biomedical science, so my parents pointed out that I needed probably something aside from performing to make a living at, but that's not where I ended up. And after graduation, I moved, spent about 15 years with kids, and I have 5 children.
Very nice.
And it was actually an exchange student from Germany that got me back into theater, who came to live with us and said, I really want to do theater. And so I took him over to the local community theater. Was that
Poteet or something else?
No, that was Stage Door in Yukon.
Okay.
And within a year, I was on the stage directing and became the board president in a very short order, so it's all been downhill from there.
Fantastic. How's the Christmas shopping going for your kiddos?
Oh.
You in good shape?
Well, that's what Amazon is for.
That's right.
I'm pretty sure.
All right, well, let's talk some call to action. How can people get involved? You mentioned the auditions coming up, but how can they also support and or donate?
Well, right now we're working on, for the very first time, we're taking a kaleidoscope cast to the Junior Theater Festival in Sacramento. Always before, our casts have been typically developing kids, and we've taken a few with special needs, but they were able to integrate in the cast. So this time, those kids with special needs are in the primary roles with their partners. No group has ever brought anything like that to the Junior Theater Festival, so we're the very first organization to bring paired children with special needs in the named roles to the Junior Theater Festival. One of the things I like is, although there have been groups with children with special needs at the festival and in other places, if they're mentored, those mirrors, or mentors, we call them mirrors, usually back out of the picture to leave just the children with special needs. We keep them on stage together as co-performers, which means that all the lines of demarcation disappear. You no longer see 2 groups of differently abled children. You see a big dynamic group where everyone has something to contribute. So we're super, super excited to get to take this to the festival and show the theater world what this is about. It's not something we intend to do every year or even in the near future, but we want other people to see that this is a possibility and probably should be a probability for most everybody, so that they can incorporate that into their own programs. And we've already been contacted by several organizations around the states who've asked us about how can we do this in our own theaters? So we're taking this group for the very first time, and we've been fundraising to get these kids. We wanted to make this, some of these kids couldn't go without outside funds.
Yeah.
So just to take there are 43 children in the cast, and to take those 43 and our 3 staff members, we're looking at a goal of about $60,000 to make that happen. We have currently raised close to 22. And we leave in February. So we're kind of reaching the last push on making this happen. And it is our intent that we will go and we will figure out how to fund it regardless. But it would sure help our families out if we could give back to them. Because the typically developing kids too are putting a lot on the table. They're giving a lot up of their own experience to make this happen for these kids with special needs. So we don't know. We've got 15 kids with special needs. We're flying across the country. There's 108 of us going on that plane. And it should be, I think we have almost all the seats but 30 on Southwest. So,
yeah. You have your own flight, basically.
We have our own flight. So it will be just traveling across the country will be an experience.
Well, it'll be an experience that everybody involved, but especially those kiddos.
But they can go online. Anyone can, if you need that year-end tax donation for a worthy cause, and these kids are changing the future of theater and our culture right now. They all give to each other, which is what we all need to be doing. But you can go online to www.kidsaliveokc, and you will find a donate button there. It's very simple. That is we are a nonprofit and a 501c3, and that's a tax-deductible donation. So.
Heaps of information of how you can get involved, various class information. Shauna's contact is on there as well. And if you want to donate, whether you're an individual or corporations, to get involved to help out with Kids Alive OKC. Shauna, I've enjoyed the conversation. Very nice to meet you. Happy holidays and best of luck with everything.
You too. I appreciate it.
Thank you.